this reminds me of a story. And by the way, when my mother knew that I was being emmed by the lifeguard in our condo building when I was 9 years old, she kept sending me to him. And she did tell me, like, you're damaged goods. Everybody knows that. You're only good for one thing. She started calling me a tramp at that time. She discovered the gifts that he had given me to groom me in. And she's like, I know what you're doing for these. So she knew what was going on and she kept sending me to him. This is something that narcissistic mothers do. They blame the victim, right? And my mother hated me, literally hated me, to a degree that I knew in every fiber of my being that she really genuinely hated me. Yet I kept working for her to love me because I thought it was my fault, which is what victims of abuse do. It's our fault, right? We're going to fix it and make it better. The story, though, that this reminds me of is my aunt, my mother's youngest sister, who I think is also quite narcissistic, not to the level of my mother, who is a sociopath and a narcissist, but we'll just say garden variety NPD. I'm 9 years old, 8 years old, somewhere in that age group. So around the time that I am being emmed by the lifeguard in our building, and my uncle, who was wonderful, oh my God, he was that funny guy who would put straws in his nose and make the kids laugh. And he was warm and loving and just such a great, great guy. And I hope I don't remember things. I know, like, in relationship to him, he never did anything bad to me. I just hope I don't remember things that screw up that memory too. Because more and more and more, as I'm looking backwards, as I even talk about my memories, as we interact together, I'm starting to have a more realistic lens around situations, like the way my grandmother fed me to my grandfather that I had never clicked in before. So it's not new memories, it's just I'm framing them correctly now, which is a really weird thing to be going through at this stage. And also a good thing at this stage, because emotionally it's not devastating me. It's more like, I never thought about that kind of thing. So it's a good place to be in. Anyway, I am in the elevator with my aunt and my uncle. 8, 9 years old, cute little kid, if I do say so myself. And I'm leaning back against my uncle. Not in any particular way. I'm just leaning back because he has his hands on my shoulders, and in like kind of a huggy sort of way, without, like, he wasn't hugging me, but it was an affectionate moment. And she looked over there and, like, down at me and up at him and like, don't do that. That's not okay. And I moved right away. Like, I knew I had done something wrong because of the other things that had been going on. I just didn't know what that wrong thing was. But my aunt was actually jealous and threatened and disgusted by a moment of affection between her husband, my uncle, and this little child, her niece. Incidentally, her daughter, who's, I don't know, maybe 5 years younger than I am, is no contact. I don't know why. She lives off grid. And I did a couple of times try to find her, and then I thought if she wanted to be found, she'd be found. So I decided not to continue down that path because I don't know what her wounds are. I also know that whatever they are, I can understand them based on my aunt's behavior. And it's really something that also tracks back to my grandfather, who was a child M. And it makes me think that my mother and her were both victims, not just my mother. I don't have any evidence of this in a way of anybody's ever told me. I just think that her behavior tells a story of how a man might be inappropriate with a child of that age. And why would you feel that way about your husband in that moment if you didn't have something to relate it back to? Unless there was something about him that I'm unaware of, which is definitely possible and I hope not true. Anyway, that's what, you unlocked that memory for me and that perspective for me. And I want to share this because I know somebody else out there has had a similar or same experience. Abusive people blame victims. They blame the children. It's not your fault. It's because that's who they are.